Good afternoon, everyone. I request Dr. Meena, ma'am, and Rajendra Kumar, sir, to be seated on the dais. Bhargavi, ma'am, please welcome, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone present here. We are gathered here for the most awaited session, that is interactive session. So we have an eminent personalities with us this afternoon for this fruitful session. We have Dr. Meena Nair, madam. To introduce her, madam is an adjunct professor at Chanakya University. Madam has done her MA, MPhil and PhD from Center for Study of Regional Development. Madam has done an exemplary work in the field of research and academics from many years. It is indeed a great honor and an opportunity to all of us to listen to you today. A warm welcome to you, ma'am. We have another inspiring personality with us, that is Dr. Rajendra Kumar Joshi, sir. Sir holds MA in Philosophy from Bangalore University and doctoral degree from Department of Humanities and Social Science from IIT. I would like to highlight that Sir has contributed a lot on national education policy implementation and an adjunct faculty at Chanakya University. It's indeed a great honor to have you with us this afternoon, sir. Hearty welcome to you, sir. We have the dynamic director, Dr. Bhargavi VR, madam, director of Seshadripuarm College, postgraduate Department of Commerce. As a moderator for this interactive session, a warm welcome to you, ma'am, and I request you to take over the session.
Thank you so much, Anusha. Elrigu namaskara, very warm good afternoon. It's such an interesting session post-lunch. Adike idina ಊಟ ಆದಮೇಲೆ Joshi sir, Meena madam na karsirodu. At the outset, it's such a great opportunity to be sharing the days with such eminent and distinguished people. What an opportunity. Thank you so much, Joshi sir and Meena ma'am, for joining us today for this interactive session. So, as all of you know, the focus of today's interactive session is about how do we develop research ecosystem in higher education institutions? So, just as a prelude to why we have chosen this topic for the interactive session. So, globally and nationally, we've all been witnessing in the 21st century tectonic shifts happening, the way teaching, learning, evaluation, research, all the facets of education has been moving towards. And in this entire journey, we've been witnessing both distress, concerns, as well as hope. I use the word hope because our Honorable Prime Minister has made a wonderful statement when he was talking about, just about 6-7 months ago, when he was talking about the National Research Foundation in the context of NEP 2020. He was saying that he envisages through the platform of National Research Foundation that by 2047, India should be a developed economy. And one of the ways to achieve this would be NEP 2020, and the major instrument, intervention, would be research and development. So in this context, I'm sure all of you will have a number of questions the minute we talk about research ecosystem. Because amidst NAC, NIRF, AICTE, UUCMS, and several other things that affiliated colleges, autonomous, and all other educational institutions are into. So I thought to commence the conversation with our eminent speakers, I have a couple of questions with me, so which I will be posing to them, and they will be sharing their insights with all of you. And in between, we will keep the floor very open. We don't want it to be a formal panel discussion kind of a thing where I'm the only person as a moderator having the freedom of asking questions. Please don't take it that way. We would be very happy and glad. We have a volunteer here who will give you the mic, and we would be very happy to take your questions in between, and we have a resource person who will be extremely excited to answer your questions. So my first question is about, as a teacher, as an educator, there's always a dilemma between teaching and research. Whether I have to be a good teacher, or I have to be a good researcher, or should I be a blend of both? So in the Indian context, maybe because of the systems that we have, we are forced to be both. Unlike the Western areas where they give us an option, whether I would like to be completely into teaching or into research. So we would like to know, I'm sure all of you will have this question, how is it that we can integrate teaching and research so that we can enhance the learning experience of our students and learners in the classroom? So can I have Joshi sir please share your thoughts about this?
Thank you. Yeah, this has been definitely one of the eternal dilemmas of an academic life in Indian context. Though we are now using the term HEI, which includes both college and university post-NEP, but I presume largely many of us here come from the college world, and the situation is not very different, at least definitely in the public universities. So I'll keep it that way. Aspiration in Indian context is teaching and research. That's the aspiration, that is the expectation. From the system, perhaps all of us would also like to do that. But I think reality, which we need to go into many factors, perhaps it will come up in the discussion, it always ends up teaching or research. I mean, almost invariably, teaching or research. And a lot of challenges which Professor Rajendra was also mentioning in the morning inaugural talk, poor infrastructure, research infrastructure, and also the demands on this system, because invariably most of us have our primary responsibility as teaching, and institutional demand on teaching is always more. Yeah. In that sense, it always becomes a choice between teaching or research. It's not teaching and research, so that's what we all would like to. But paradoxically, in academic life all over the world, definitely in India as well, research is seen as definitely more, it's higher in the pecking order. Yeah. It is rewarded more, and it's also seen as glamorous. I am a good teacher is not a great description, but I have few papers or a book or a patent is a better self-description in the academic life. So we are stuck with some kind of paradox here. What we want, what is, and also what is valued. All they seem to be not in sync with each other. Yeah. But I think the root problem, I would rather look at teaching and research as two dimensions of a same life or a same academic life. Because the way we have also looked at teaching, I'll just take a minute more and then I'll leave it to Meena. We have also looked at teaching also. For example, teaching is seen largely as transmission of pre-packaged, perhaps pre-digested material to the student. Okay. In that sense, student also learns it as something that just needs to be consumed. There is no reflexivity, there is no criticality, and plus there is other problem which we all contribute to it. We all belong to a discipline, some discipline or the other. At least in the modern time, 21st century, I think it's time to recognize disciplines are mere administrative conveniences. Yeah. But we have made it so rigid that we also work within our discipline and we don't want even to look at the other disciplines. As I think that's one quotation of Karl Popper I like very much. He says, we are all students of problems and issues, not about off disciplines. Discipline is one lens of looking at a certain issue. There are as many lenses. Perhaps I am richer by being aware, if not expert, being aware that there are other lenses of looking at the problem that I am looking into through my lens of my discipline. Okay? But what we have done, the teaching is ossified as a discipline and it's given a kind of a pre-digested material. So we have become transmitters of this information. Students consume this. As a result, teaching has become a very, very, very mechanical activity, which also has contributed to research being seen as higher than in pecking order than teaching. I think if we reconceptualize teaching, perhaps we'll get into details as we go along. If we reconceptualize teaching, it's a little more open-ended, where problems are more important, answers, or rather questions are critical, not answers. Okay? If that's the spirit with which we get into teaching, then I think it's easier or less difficult to balance teaching and research. Because then teaching acquires a certain research dimension. Yeah, I'll stop there. And something.
Ma'am, can we have your thoughts, please?
Yeah. Or anybody else later also.
So my disclaimer is that I have been part of a core academic faculty only for the last 6 months. For the last 2.5 decades, I have been working in the development sector and doing a lot of a lot of groundwork in terms of research, advocacy, action. Naturally, coming from the development sector, that becomes very important. So therefore, I cannot think of life without research, you know. I mean, and for me, academics comes in when I am doing a lot of literature review, trying to understand the issue that I am trying to look at, trying to explore, for which I need to read up to understand the theoretical frameworks behind it. What is it that I can apply to my research to make it more credible? I mean, that becomes that is where my academic part comes in. I mean, because that's something that I pursued in my PhD, and therefore, research there is a protocol that one has to follow, and that is where I think that teaching and research are very complementary. You cannot, you know, keep them like silos, because teaching requires a lot of research-based evidence that you can bring in to enrich what you're teaching, right? If you're, as part of social sciences, if you're talking about a certain social phenomena, let's just think of, for example, age and marriage. Now, why is that important as a topic? I mean, and if you're adding the gender dimension to it, it becomes all the more important. Why is there a law behind it? Why does Constitution talk about age and marriage being important? So therefore, you need research, case studies, census data to explain why this becomes important. And that is where I think you bring in, value to teaching, because you are talking about live examples. And that actually complements. So therefore, I think they are both complementary. It's definitely dependent on how much time a teacher requires to bring in that aspect to, make teaching more enriching, is what I think.
Completely agree with both of you and the perceptions that you have shared, and reconceptualizing teaching with open-mindedness, I think it's the need of the hour. So I'll keep the floor open for questions if anybody has any questions about integration of teaching and research with the focus and objective of enhancing the learning effectiveness of students in the class. So if there are any questions, we would be happy to take them. So If there are no questions, I will pick a question from our inaugural session when Professor Rajendra was addressing the gathering. So he was basically talking about the kind of research outputs that is being produced. So when we talk about the higher education institutions, ecosystem of research, I think the most important stakeholder is one at the macro level, the entire institution, and the researchers. Now the output of this research, how beneficial and impactful it has been, maybe in the society, business, industry, that's always been a question. Is it that we have research being done just to add it to our profile as a paper publication and a presentation made in a conference? Or do we have other focus and objective of creating some impact, being a change maker in the society and the community that we live in? So we would love to hear from both of you. How is it that we can create impact at the researcher level with their outputs and higher education institutions? When we look at the Oxford, Harvard, so their research outputs are, people keep waiting for their outputs, their insights. So how is it that we can integrate and inculcate that concept of using these research insights and outputs for a better impact for the community, society, and businesses around us?
I think continuation of reconceptualizing teaching also requires reconceptualizing research. It's a Siamese twins of reconceptualized teaching. Because I think in the morning session, as it was being said, I think more than one speaker, is it a publication? Is it improving my profile? What is it? I think research should be, which is also what teaching should do. It should concern with certain fundamental question, which may be rooted in a discipline, but it is never limited by a discipline. Yeah, it may take off from a particular discipline, but never limited in a discipline. So I think research as pursuing a question. In that sense, I think your secretary said, Mr. Krishna, he said it is a curiosity, it is a mindset. Research as a curiosity, as a mindset, as an attitude is very, very important, because then I might acquire a paper, I might have a book to my credit, but the question is what stays with me. Again, you also mentioned, universities elsewhere, people look forward to the research. I may take a little attitude which may not be immediately a little strange, I would say. There was this film which became very popular, Kantara. I'm sure everybody has heard or perhaps seen. There are a lot of debate why it succeeded in the press, because it was not a big budget film, it is a Kannada film, but it made noise everywhere. I think its strength was it is acutely regional. You can become global only when you are rooted and you are really, really rooted somewhere. Because that film, I'm just using the film, let's not get distracted into the film. Film is only an illustration. Though it was very rooted, very local in its theme, but it was very sensitive to something which was very global. Let's say environmental problem, problem resulting from environmental degradation on locals. So it was very sensitive to global issues, but issue was very, very local. I think if our research is really rooted where we are as an institution or as a researcher, without losing sensitivity to larger issues, I think then our research will become more relevant and it touches us rather than wanting to be global. I think being global might make us global. Being local might make us global, but wanting to be global, I'm not sure whether we will really become global.
Absolutely, sir. You have to.
Somebody is good.
You have to think local and act global. So that's a fantastic thought process.
To rephrase it, let's think local. It will impact global.
Impact global. Wonderful, sir. That was a great statement. Ma'am, your thoughts, please.
No, I'm I'll just take it a bit forward, or rather, add to what Sir said. So basically, see, everything has an impact on humans, right? We all are working towards something, there are problems. We are always looking towards finding solutions to ensure, let's go by the preamble, for example, ensure justice, ensure equality, ensure fraternity, ensure liberty. That's exactly what we want, right? Certain geographies are left behind, certain populations are left behind. What is it that we can do to make quality of life of certain populations living in certain geographies better? I don't think that even if you work across disciplines, whether it's social sciences or commerce or management, directly or indirectly, somewhere the common denominator remains the same, which is people, the citizens of this country. So, I don't know if that, because you're looking at local and global, but then it's all about people, right? The way they live, the society that they live in, the influences, the social behavior, all that is influenced by the kind of, and what is it that research can do is try and understand the current situation and find solutions through various means to ensure that they have a better quality of life.
Right. So you mean to say, you were talking about having a multidisciplinary approach. So because we've always lived in silos, because maybe our problem statement is always thought only from my discipline. I always focus only on my domain. So any thoughts about how you can help our teachers bring in that mindset? There are a number of institutions which are single disciplinary institutions. Maybe they just run one program and they do not have many other departments like humanities, arts, performing arts, engineering. So your suggestions from both of you, how is it that we can break these silos? How do we build this networking among teachers so that they can develop that thought process of looking at the problem statement with multiple eyes?
The first thing I think we need to recognize that as a community, as an academic community, we need to recognize that disciplines are a cognitive orientation. They are not a content. They are a cognitive orientation. If we recognize this, in fact, when you mentioned NEP while introducing, we have gone to many institutions, colleges, universities talking about NEP. One of the biggest resistance from the faculty is about these different disciplines. As long as you let me teach what I have been teaching, you can do any change you want. It reminds you of that Henry Ford statement. We can give you any color of the car as long as it is black. That was a famous statement of Henry Ford. I can give you any color of the car as long as it is black. So you can do any changes, but don't disturb my discipline. Which is understandable. I'm very empathetic towards it because all of us, including me, we have invested a huge amount of time and effort because the entire academic culture is designed around discipline. And there is a vested interest of any group, which wants to maintain. Vested interest in a very neutral sense. I'm not even saying it as a pejorative sense. It has its own interest to survive. So, therefore, we have invested a lot of time, a lot of effort, energy in being a specialist in a certain discipline. Now, suddenly, because times have changed, technology has changed, policy has changed, somebody comes and says, look, one discipline is no great thing. You have to have a multiple perspectives. It's obviously a threat to my entire standing, which I have built over a period of time. So first, there is a need to change our own mindsets. This is especially a challenge in a single stream or a single discipline institution. Because in a multidisciplinary institution, though most multidisciplinary institutions are multidisciplinary only logistically speaking. There is an art, science, commerce, law, everything. But as a student, as somebody who spends 5 years there, I am no different from anybody who has gone to a single discipline college or a university. because there is very little, give and take between disciplines. So, in that sense, there is a mindset change which is required from our side. And I think there is a need to talk among ourselves on this larger issue of where can I really go beyond my discipline? Where do I need to go beyond my discipline? So it's more a change in our mindset. Then perhaps it's little effortful, but not very difficult to find collaborators from other disciplines who are interested in issues that I am interested, or as a community we are interested in.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, your thoughts?
So again, from the research perspective, I think the focus should be on the issue. If you are looking at the problem statement, you have invested, for example, talked about the discipline. I am saying that you have invested a lot of time and effort in trying to understand the issue, wherever it's coming from, because the same issue can be tackled by a computer scientist by using secondary data. The person has used a lot of secondary data to talk about an issue. So the issue remains the same, but it may have a sociological perspective, a historical perspective, a political understanding, a psychological reasoning, and also data-based, computer science-based backing. So if that is the case, then the idea is to look at that issue, try and understand it from the perspective of all these aspects. So that is the focus. So if you're looking at visually, it's like that becomes the focus, and all the other disciplines actually contribute in some way or the other in terms of parameters or variables in arriving at the statement of the problem. And then you are looking at, okay, this is my problem, what becomes my objective, and therefore how will I try and find a pathway towards finding a solution. So it needs a bit of both emotional and logical understanding to be able to bring in that whole concept of interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary perspective.
Absolutely.
Just to add
Yes, sir, please.
I think that's where I would say policy, NEP as a policy has taken a leap forward, because it's talking of balancing between breadth and depth. Yeah? Because in many ways they are interdependent. You really want to go in depth into an issue, you need to go beyond confines of a discipline. And when you really go beyond confines of a discipline, you also understand the deeper issues in your own discipline. So in that sense, there is a interdependence between breadth and depth. For whatever reason, we chose more focused on depth. We thought that was a good thing. But I think increasingly, both thinking in education, as well as even if you look at employability as an issue, I think market is demanding definitely today people who are multi-skilled, or at least they are able to take multiple perspectives on the same problem. Because when I study a discipline, I acquire a certain way of looking at a problem. There's a very famous thing which I am very fond of. Two people visited Jog Falls around the same time in the early 20th century. One of them wrote very poetically about it. The other said, "What a waste." Okay. One was Tagore, poet, who had he spent quite a bit of time in Karnataka. His brother used to be an ICS officer in Karwar. So he has written poetically about Jog Falls as a poet. I think 8-9 years later, Vishweshwaraya visited, and he said it is what a waste. Okay, because he could see hydroelectricity there, which we had not yet tapped. That's an engineer's mind. That was a poet's mind. Okay. So what I'm trying to drive is each discipline gives a certain orientation to the issue. Okay. Somebody is richer both as a person and as an employee or as an entrepreneur if I can switch between different perspectives, which means I need to be exposed to different perspectives, which is where there is a need for a balance between breadth and depth, which unless we as a community acquire it, we cannot possibly relate it to our students.
Absolutely. I think this mental model change is what is required in all of us as teachers so that we can break the silos and bring this kind of a perspective of looking at and respecting all the disciplines and try to drop the ego baggage aside and start talking to people, network, and then bring in these new perspectives. Sir, I'll pick a point from what you were mentioning earlier and also the inaugural session. Everybody's been talking about technology and innovation. So, as an higher education institution, institutions are always working or making effort in enhancing their capabilities. So, technology and innovation can be one of the interventions that can be used to enhance capabilities. As many teachers keep complaining about the infrastructural support when we talk about research. I think the first concern that teachers have is about time. The second is the accessibility to resources. Now, of course, we are in an era of technology innovation. So how do you think, ma'am, if both of you could throw some light on how is it that higher education institutions can leverage on technology and innovation so that they can enhance the capabilities for a better research output?
It's a bit tricky because see, as I said, I come from a not-for-profit, independent think tank kind of sector. So naturally, resources are always a problem, especially financial resources, right? So now, when you talk about technology, I can very quickly think of 2-3 things. One, increasingly, naturally, you are looking at online resources. You know, for reading up, for literature, for data, and all that. You look at online. A lot of which is already available, free. I mean, if you are looking at data, I think almost every government department, whether of the central government or state government, provides data. Increasingly, it's being felt that data is being withheld, but there is still a lot of data out there. Then you're looking at books, I think, with some payment or without. Also, there are enough online resources available. If you're looking at, for example, primary data, then again, I mean, I think we have moved quite a bit from the paper questionnaire to computer-assisted, tab-based data collection. There are different ways of data collection, primary data that you can use. So the idea is, how do you make things smoother? I mean, use things better to ensure that you are not spending too much time, because the moment one talks about primary data, immediately there's this whole thing of effort and time becomes a problem. And as a teacher, you as a sir, and you've been saying, you're invested a lot in teaching, and it's not just teaching. Then there is formative assessment, summative assessment. All these terms I'm learning now the last 4 or 5 months since I've been taking a 1 credit course.
Not yet cut off NAC.
Yes, I'm yet to reach there. So then somewhere subconsciously, I think we tend to keep research aside for the time. We say, "Nahi, we don't have time for this now. I'm too much into teaching." So, but that's where I think it becomes important that you involve, the other members of the community. I mean, why not students? Why not the whole concept of interns? There's so many people who would love to get into that experience. For us, I mean, when I was in my previous job, we used to take interns from Azim Premji University, Symbiosis, and let me assure you, we could not pay them a penny. We were very clear, please come. But yes, I assure you that you will learn a lot, because we were working with various departments and all that. So that becomes important. How do you bring in these people? And it has to be a mix of both, ardent effort and technology. Technology, and also in the form of various softwares that are available, that reads data, that crunches data and comes out with solutions, which basically means that you bring in another discipline, which is like, for example, data sciences. So they are not different from each other. We are all looking at the same element. So I don't know whether answer is all your questions, but
right.
Trying to read somewhere.
Yes, very much, ma'am, very much.
I think, resource is always a problem, but I think technology in terms of material books or articles or other kind of things are effortful, but perhaps are not too difficult these days. But I think the biggest challenge for somebody wanting to do research in a college environment especially is time. I think time is perhaps the biggest constraint. What makes the problem much more complex is institutions expect faculty to do research, but it becomes the individual's burden to do the research. I think there is a need for institution also to take up ownership of the research. In the sense it happens in my institution through my faculty. So therefore they will have to work towards creating some kind of an environment. I know it's very difficult because the whole economics of a college is finally by numbers, and therefore the time, and therefore the teacher's time becomes a challenge. But that's the way we have structured, so that's a challenge that remains. But if institution decides to own research as one of their agenda items, not just demand from the faculty that you do it, then I think there is a way of doing it. At least, can we create a research community at the institution? For example, we talk of research learning community. Can't this be there at every college? So that we occasionally meet whenever that is feasible to talk about anything that bothers me. Either I'm looking for a problem, an issue to do the research, or I am doing research but I am stuck. I'm not sure. I have tons of data, but I don't know what to make sense out of it, what is relevant to me, what is not relevant to me. So this is where I am stuck. Yeah? And the loneliness of doing research makes it worse. So the best thing to move forward is perhaps to have a community where I can share my problem. There could be a solution within the community. Perhaps there is a partner with whom I can work. Our burden is, half to that extent. We take the thing. Then it becomes easier. I think this is one way of looking at this. The other thing which we have not thought of, which I think there is a great need. We are one of the largest systems of higher education in the world, sheerly by size and numbers. And we are growing. I mean, our GER is just about 27-28%. By the way we have grown in last 15 years, policy is right in predicting by next 10 years we will be 50%. Yeah? Which means it's almost be double than what we are doing. Yeah? So we really the large system. But there is very little work done on teaching, learning in the higher education sector. You take any country, forget UK, US, Australia, Malaysia has so much work on teaching, learning the way they do it on their field. We have almost zero compared to them. So not only research and teaching, research or teaching, I am throwing the third one, research into teaching. This is far easier because if I can use a research terminology, the field work is what we do every day. I am in the class every day. So one part of my research I am actually doing it. Yeah. All I have to do is to be more conscious of it. I have to document it. I have to be a little more robust in asking questions, finding solution, testing the solution. It could be as simple as I try a new way of teaching, but I document it. I mean, finally, what's the difference? What is it that makes research more valued and more glamorous? It's a very public affair. I mean, I throw what I have written finally into the world where my peers can look at it, critique it, use it, carry it forward. But teaching is what I do all by myself. There is a kind of a isolation in teaching. Because on an average day, teaching is between me and my 60 students in my class. Anybody coming is once in a while administrative thing, but otherwise this is all that is there. But if we can make teaching a little more public property, if I can use the word, then I think perhaps there is enough to do research into teaching. So the whole dilemma of teaching or research can be interestingly resolved in a different way.
Absolutely, sir. Because we always see a gap in teachers who get into the pre-university colleges and teachers who get into higher education. There's a huge gap because generally those teachers are trained in B.Ed, and there is some component of research in teaching. But wherein here today I'm a postgraduate student and tomorrow I'm a teacher in a classroom, I think that's the biggest missing component. That's wonderfully said by both of you. Generally when we look at the progression of a teacher in their entire career, we keep adding years to our service. And we always look at the seniority, especially in the space of higher education. The one common question that keeps lingering in my mind is, the corporate talks about building a career pathway. So you have a career pathway for yourself, you know where you are seeing yourself, you have a vision, you have a personal mission statement for yourself. But when it comes to academics, what is the researcher life cycle? You are in the initial stage of your career, you are in the mid-career. So slowly we see that the researcher's life cycle, just like a product life cycle, the shelf size a number of times comes down, it just drops. But looking in terms of building an ecosystem for a research culture in an educational institution, I think it has to be dynamic and continuous. So what is your thought about this researcher life cycle, and how do we keep it more persistent over the years of their service?
Yeah, I think when we start our careers in academic life, perhaps as it should happen, the way perhaps it happens, is teaching takes a front seat or dominates my time and energy, which is also the time perhaps I settle down into my role as a teacher, which is what all of us do perhaps in first 3 to 5 years. Then of course there is research if one has decided already to do it. Normally my research starts with my domain research, because that's the comfort space, that's where I have come from. That's what my academic identity is. I am a teacher of economics or physics or whatever I am. But I think as we go forward, I think it has to be a larger issue, which is where research must focus perhaps into the idea of education, teaching, learning, because now I am more a seasoned teacher. If I have spent, let's say, more 10 years, and also there is also a practical element, being a little pragmatic about it. Having done research in my domain, I have also proved to my peers that I am capable. I mean, my doing research into my teaching learning is not a digression, but I have proved already, so you don't have to doubt my credentials. I am now taking larger issues. So perhaps one moves into research, into teaching learning, and perhaps this is also the time when many areas it is possible, perhaps most disciplines it's possible. I also get into what can be loosely referred to as a consulting, which is essentially letting my expertise be used by the field, actual work, whichever my area is, be it physics or economics or psychology or literature for that matter. So some kind of consultancy, which actually makes my role much larger. Now I go beyond the institution. I start located within my discipline, move deeper into discipline, move wider into teaching learning across the institution, and perhaps move later into larger world, which is consulting, where I see where I can contribute, be it industry, be it policy making, be it evaluation of government schemes, depending on my specialization. So I think that also, otherwise there is also a problem of me getting stagnant. This is another problem. Teachers complain, at least. I've been teaching the same thing for years. In fact, the external opinion about teaching, which I keep telling people, please jump in and find out for yourself. They say teaching must be easy, same thing you teach for years. I said, please start doing it and then you tell me, don't tell me from outside. So, but there is a possibility of getting stagnant. So, the larger the role that I acquire, I think my experience, my expertise gives me a much larger career trajectory for me. And perhaps it also helps me being useful beyond even my career. Let's say I retire at a certain age. Beyond that also, I am useful to myself and to the community if I get into consulting.
I think it's a bit academic, but yeah. See, I look at probably at two parts to it. One is, as Sir said, I mean, when you start, probably you're starting alone. You're starting with an idea that you want to explore, but slowly, in depth, in the sense that with your class of students, for example, probably you can get them to engage, to research that issue. You can divide that issue into certain parts, and then get the students to explore that part, present it, and then try a seamless way of approaching a problem. That's one. The second thing is talk about it with your peers in the same institution. So, for example, very recently in Chanakya University, so I am part of the Office of Academic Affairs, so where research is one vertical. So we have started something called a Research Exchange Forum, which is basically teachers, faculty members who have either gone for a workshop, have some experience, had learned something on a certain topic, or they are researching an issue and they would like to present it to the remaining faculty members. So it started small. We have had, I think, 4 sessions, but it's slowly gaining interest. And there are teachers from biological sciences, from natural sciences, and they ask very interesting questions, which may not be very necessarily be part of their discipline, but having read something which they felt is important to the issue that is being discussed. See, there itself you see an opening, right? You're looking at another dimension, which is another discipline, but tackles the same issue. So I think that both have to be taken into account to bring in the whole concept of spread and depth.
So no classes during that time, so all the faculty.
Correct. We do it on a fortnightly basis for the time being. So we actually thought that we may not find volunteers, may have to push and shove people, but actually, there are members who have volunteered and said we would like to present something.
Completely agree, ma'am, because that kind of a constructive feedback from your colleagues, from your peers, makes a big difference to your research work.
This is something I remember,
Please,
interesting. So, there is a research on teaching preferences of Nobel laureates. Most of them prefer course 101 in their discipline. Because they are the students who can really ask very basic questions, which the Nobel laureates, many of them feel that it helps them to relook at what they have been saying. If you teach, very intuitive thing, this looks counterintuitive. Intuitive thing is to teach very advanced, because I am already highly immersed in what I do. But they also come with a lot of baggage of learning, which is what I am full of as a senior academic. So therefore, there is no fresh question coming. Perhaps there may be difficult question, but there is no fresh question coming. Therefore, many of them feel that many Nobel laureates have said that they prefer 101 course in their discipline. So it is also looking for a fresh perspective, whether it is from a younger colleague or from a new student or from the world outside. He is the way one should look forward to.
That's simply fantastic, sir, because as educators, I think only once we start questioning and once we are inquisitive, and only then I think we would encourage and having an engaging session in our classrooms and encourage our students to question us. So the world has been talking about assessments, accreditations, rankings. The world is behind it. So I don't want to name the organizations here. But sir, if we talk about the success of a higher education institution in terms of a research ecosystem, can you tell me the top 3 things, how you could measure that, yes, you are moving in the right direction, you're able to really create some impact? Because generally what happens is in some of the rankings, you just look at publication, just look at the impact factor. But as you were saying that, localization has more impact. So can we have some 3 parameters which will tell you the institution is moving in the right direction and is able to have sustained research culture? Any top 3 things that comes to your mind?
Because we are so much stuck with all the parameters that everybody has thrown at us, patents, paper, publication, placement record, progression record, etc., etc. But I think they're important. I'm not at all, not recognizing anyone. They're all important because one of the challenge in education or anything like education, when you want to quantify things, it's a very difficult thing because we are actually trying to tangibilize something which is intangible. Yeah. So therefore, that is a challenge. Yeah, that is a challenge. Maybe they are proxies for some movement that we have done. But I think the biggest thing is, are students highly engaged? Are teachers very enthusiastically involved? I think becomes a bigger, I would say, marker of whether we are moving. We may be moving slowly, somebody may be moving fast. But I think the very engaging classroom environment, not entertaining, engaging, because there is a danger of, engagement through entertainment. That's not what I mean. Very seriously engaging. And secondly, very enthusiastic teaching faculty. Once we have this, I think we have the raw material. Then perhaps one can push depending on what kind of profile I have of faculty with me. Whether they are more into research, they are more into teaching. That can be done. But I think this is essential. Rather than starting from that end, perhaps I would personally start with this end. Yeah.
Absolutely, sir. Ma'am, your thoughts, please.
One aspect that I feel is that the taking forward the enthusiastic teaching part. I think enthusiastic teaching comes in when you find enthusiastic reception to your teaching. I mean, the more students are engaged, the more questions they ask, the more your mind starts working. Okay, this question was asked. Where do I look for, the tangible answer that I can respond with to the student? That comes, I think, when you talk about, concepts, frameworks, theories of your discipline. I think it has to be backed by a lot of actual work that has been done using that framework. Some case study, some study that was done using that framework, something that actually finally impacted someone somewhere. So then I think the enthusiasm part comes in. I think that becomes important. So I don't know how it can be measured. Probably courses which include a lot of case studies, for example. I think in the US, most of the Ivy League universities actually do that. They back most of their courses with a lot of very interesting case studies. So they invest a lot of time and effort in preparing, grounded case studies. So probably that could be one kind of measure. The second measure, I think, is for the students in terms of their exposure to the ground, to the reality. Do we have any very good outreach programs where they actually, let's say, again, coming from social sciences, have they visited a gram panchayat? Have they seen a school, an Anganwadi center, a ration shop? How does a GP gram panchayat work? What does the office do? how does a policy or a program come in nurturing that institution. And these become important, and that can happen only if students are exposed to that. And where else but not in the institution. I mean, the institution should make an effort, and probably that can become another measure where the more the exposure the students have off the ground, which actually kind of helps them to, get into research because of the engagement that they found, would be the ultimate reward, right? I mean, how many people have gone into research after having done certain course in the university? Becomes an additional accomplishment for the university to say that so many people have, because of our outreach programs. Right? Probably I'm being too basic, but I thought that's.
I completely agree, ma'am, because I think it's time that we start revisiting and reorienting the thought process that we already have. Maybe, we already have this fixed mindset. I think we need to start looking at with the growth mindset and going back to the basics and the consulting part of it. And as you mentioned, our students forget the basics and the local information and the knowledge that they are expected to know because they are existing in those communities. But most of the time they're thinking about globally what is happening, but which is they are unable to connect with what is happening in the communities around them. Absolutely agree with both of you. So these were a few questions which I had in my mind. So as Lata Ma'am's instruction, I've been able to do it exactly at 3 p.m. and I have 15 minutes more going in. The floor is open for all our participants for questions. We have our volunteer who will give the mic.
Yeah, very good
Sir,
afternoon.
please.
Good afternoon, Joshi sir and Madam Nair, Madam, excellent interactive session. It is really interactive in its real sense. And I have a small thing to add actually, just to our very previous discussion about what is the mode and strategy of establishing a research ecosystem in colleges. Basically, I am from the same ground, that is undergraduate level. We teach students at the undergraduate level and large number of students, say around 2,700 students, 3,000 students in a campus. So the real challenge is how to make such campuses research friendly, how to establish research ecosystem, and how to connect the research and teaching in the classrooms where the strength is around 3,000, where there are about 15 to 20 verticals, and there are about 100 plus faculty members. So the faculty itself make as 2 classes, okay, 2 class of students, so much of strength of faculty members. So my little experience is to encourage students, because now they have to take up these internships and projects compulsorily. The basic idea of internship and projects is to provide them hands-on experience with their domain. So therefore, connecting these students and giving them a small research problem and establishing research clubs, operating research clubs, working research clubs, because every institution is having nowadays research and development cell. Research and development cell is there, but no development. So therefore, establishing a real working research and development cells, research clubs, and student engagement through research clubs. And now all these research activities are incentive based. See, if you do PhD, 3 increments are given and 2 years early promotion is given. So people are motivated to take up a PhD or research. So after once they complete a PhD, then we have to keep their motivation high to continue at least what they have done, postdoctoral or fellowship, whatever it is. So that is the greatest challenge, and time is a greatest hurdle, greatest limitation for the undergraduate teachers, because you have to teach 16 hours, in some colleges more than 16, 20 hours also, and a lot of other connected activities like extension activities, co-curricular activities, all that. So therefore, giving a focus on this operating research clubs, engaging students, teachers together at a particular point of time, And the outcome of research should be brought to the classroom and connect with the curriculum. So that has to be done. So somewhere there is a gap between what is kind of academic research that we do and what the industry are expecting in terms of research outcome. So that gap has to be filled. So probably somewhere we have to ignite. And these three things, one is the innovation, the creativity and the research. So these three things has to be connected. So if we try to tap this particular element, probably in the long run, every institution will have a research flavor at the grassroots level. Thank you, sir.
So namaste. It was a very good discussion, Rajendra sir and Meena ma'am. My point is like there was a discussion, and I would like to just add on some points if the permitted. Teaching and research, I feel personally, I am from sociology faculty. I am from Rani Chanakya University, Bhargavi. I feel that teaching and research is like it should be by choice and not by a chance. Basically, I believe that. So the teacher, the fraternity, if they are by choice and they have a long run, so whatever they do, it's of their choice, and there will be some inquisitiveness towards the teaching and research. So they will adapt many assumptions and they will follow that path. And even the research will be having of a quality. As someone was saying, I think sir mentioned that the quality and the quantity is matters when the fraternity are by chance. And if they are not involved in a connection with the choiced teaching fraternity connectivity, then they will be of always by a chance who are being helped by ghostwriters. And that is how the quantity builds on, is what I feel. And it's only the teaching and research with the passion we'll get the quality part. And ma'am mentioned that there in the Chanakya University people have a research forum. Ma'am, in our Rani Chanakya University we have a readers forum. We are running it from the past 3 years. This is the third year we are running. We have 16-member faculty. It's of by choice of their chance. We give a one topic or any of the novel or any book, and we discuss. 15 days has been given, and we come and discuss on that. So it's every second and fourth Saturday we have a discussion on that. It will be from 3 to 5. So even it had come in the many of the newspaper as well, because that was the innovative part what the NAC had highlighted on that part. So when we have the discussions, one topic from sociological perspective, from economic perspective. So in this way, we were like highlighted that the multidisciplinary will give a very boosting and a very fruitful result and a finding, rather than one person looking at it from a different angle, because sometimes he may not find it the exact way as a political faculty or as a geographical faculty sees it. He is a very in-depth in his own arena, so he'll give a very fruitful part from his part of subject or discipline. So in that sense, I think a multidisciplinary and the multidisciplinary research projects are also being now given more prominence, even in the NEP as well as in some other projects also. Even ICSS also is insisting to have a research proposals with Taiwan, with South Africa. There are some projects which we are witnessing from the couple of years. So the multidisciplinary is gaining a very good importance. And ma'am, you mentioned about the Malaysian part of, I just exactly don't remember, Malaysia University. I had a visit to the Taylor's Unity at Malaysia. So we came up with having a MOU. With having a MOU with teaching and research, the students from Malaysian were getting benefited rather than our students getting benefited, because our students are not well acquainted with the language of English. They are very much of a local. So that is how now they globally they are very hesitant to move out of their own shell, and like they won't get that broad exposure. So that was the lacuna what we are facing in our students, that the language is a biggest barrier. So teaching, we have to come out of that. So doing a research in a regional language, I don't personally suggest that, because research is a very broader perspective. You need to, it should reach the whole globe. So when you need to reach it, you have to get exposed with the global language, and also that's the one part where the research is lacking behind is what I felt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you so
yeah,
much
thank
for your inputs. We have 5 more minutes to go. We can take one more question.
Language
Yes,
issue.
please.
I don't, though it's preferred if we can talk to the world in the way world can understand. But it's not necessarily. In the morning, I don't, one of them mentioned how China made efforts to translate everything into Chinese. Yeah. Why go there when Osmania University was established? Because it was done during Nizam's time. All the texts were translated into Urdu and Persian and done. This is a huge, I mean, it may today look of no significance because neither are those two languages used prominently in any research in Indian context. But Israel has done it with Hebrew, almost a dead language, just about 70 years ago. Yeah. So language is not necessarily a problem, but if we are serious, I think we should invest in that, which we have not done. Mere sloganeering is not going to help. Yeah. But I think we have to do some real hard work of translating stuff into the language that we would like to promote. Then I don't think language will be a problem.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. So we have 4 minutes to go. We can take one more question. Yes, please.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question to both of you, sir. I think from morning we have been discussing and we've been talking about the research and the ecosystem, everything. But now I'm little worried about the quality of the research, especially in the artificial intelligence era. So now, if you can just throw a light on the quality of the research in this era and how for a young, researcher, how to take it forward in order to give a better quality research to the society. So if you can just tell us.
I personally think that one of the very important topics which should be kind of talked about across disciplines, across programs, is research ethics. See, if you are aware of what research ethics means, what academic integrity means, and how any kind of plagiarism can cause a spiraling effect on your career and you as a person. I automatically, because somewhere I think the whole concept of application of AI, ChatGPT and all that is only because you're trying to kind of fast track the research process. You want something done in 2 days instead of taking time over and effort and labor over 2 months. It's not, I don't think that's the issue. The issue is what is the ethics behind it? How are you really addressing the problem, or are you trying to go around it by using all these technology, and would it actually benefit the person whom you are, or the target population or the geography that you are looking at? So I personally feel that research ethics as a course, a small one-credit course, becomes all the more important across disciplines, across sectors.
More to add, perhaps more transparent we become about things, then maybe there is a less of a problem, because then there is a whole community which is looking at what I am doing. It's not just me. So perhaps that could be another inbuilt check into the system. But it is a hard problem. It is a hard problem. I think the whole world is struggling with it. We really don't know. Already teachers are saying, I don't know who's doing my assignments that I have asked in the class. So, and you have no way of doing it also. It's very human-like. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. We are on time with 3:15, so we will have a short tea break. Our resource persons will be available. I think you can have a one-on-one conversation with them. Yes. A big thanks to our resource persons, but formally we will have a vote of thanks by Dr. Lata ma'am. Ma'am, over to you, please.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of CESS and Seshadripuarm College, I would like to extend our sincere thanks to Dr. Meena Nair for making this session enriched with her expertise and insights. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I would like to extend our sincere thanks to Dr. Rajendra Prasad Joshi, sir, also for sharing his insights and making this session more valuable. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Yeah, next I would like to extend our sincere thanks to Dr. Bhargavi ma'am for moderating this session. I like Dr. Muralidhar sir to present a small token of appreciation. Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, I would like to extend our sincere thanks to all the participants who have gathered here for your active participation. Thank you all.